Hey, what's up, you amazing hackers? I hope you're all doing well today. So, we've got a cool episode for you guys because today I'm going to tell you guys about CSRF and actually demonstrate what it is and how you guys can test for CSRF vulnerabilities. Let's get right into it, shall we? Now, the first lab is a CSRF vulnerability with no defenses. So, this lab's email change functionality is vulnerable to CSRF. To solve the lab, craft some HTML that uses a CSRF attack to change the viewer's email address and upload it to your exploit server. You have an account on the application that you can use to help design your attack. The credentials are Carlos and Montoya is the password. So the first thing we are going to have to do, of course, is we're going to have to start up our burp and configure our scope properly. I always use the advanced scope control because if you add a rule, it's going to enable you to enter regex in here, and I've enabled the Web Security Academy.net rule for myself. Now, I want to test with the built-in browser, so to do that, I'm going to open the proxy tab, then my intercept tab, and here I can open a browser. Now, if I click that, of course, I'm going to have my browser open, but I'm still going to need the URL for my laboratory, so of course, we're going to grab that as well, and we're going to paste it in here. Now, all of my traffic is being sent to burp. As you can see, my intercept is on. Going to turn it off because, as always, I completely recommend that you guys fully explore this website first, see what the functionalities are, list them a little bit. So that's what we're going to do as well. It seems that we have a blog page in here. We can view the post specifically. We can leave a comment that appears. And then we can go back to the blog, but we can also go to the home page and we can log in. Now we have our username for this. Let's go back to the Chrome window where we have our password. There we go. And this allows us to log in. Now when we're logged in, we see a new functionality for change emails. So let's try that. Test@test.test. Cannot even type anymore. Sorry about that, guys. There we go. So when you update your email, we can go back to burp real quick, and in burp we can see in our HTTP history a post called to email/change email. Now, as you can see, there is no CSRF token in here. There is no CSRF token in the header. So that means that whenever we try to do a CSRF attack, if you guys want to know what that's all about, video will be up in the top somewhere. So, and also in the description. There's no CSRF token, so we should just be able to perform our CSRF attack. Now, we have a couple of options for that. Of course, we can open our engagement tools in Burp Pro, and then we can generate our CSRF POC. Now, this is where we as bug bounty hunters would do something different than what the lab asks us to do. So as a bug bounty hunter, what we want to do is we would like to test this in browser. When we click that button, Burp is going to give us a URL. We can copy this URL, and when we serve to that URL in our browser, we can see a submit request button. Now, when we quickly inspect the code in here, we can see that the email address is in here as a hidden input field, and it's going to perform the action of changed email with the post method. So basically, whoever's logged in this browser window, it's going to change their email to the email address that we supplied in here. That's basically how a CSRF attack works, real quickly summarized for you guys again. As a bug bounty hunter, what we want to do, of course, is we want to make this something like this, something that's not the current that's not the current value for email. We'd want to test this in browser. Again, paste, of course, our URL and submit the request. Now, we actually want to check if our email has been changed as bug bounty hunters, but that's not possible because the current email address is not displayed in our labs. So as you can see, that's not possible for this lab. If we want to solve the lab completely, what we actually have to do is go back to burp, take this HTML code in here. We have to paste it in our body. Then we'll have to store the exploit, and then we'll have to view it, submit the request, and this should have solved our lab, but it clearly doesn't. So let's go back real quickly. So we have our form method, we have our URL, we have our input parameter with our value, and we have submit. So enable the option to include an auto. Oh, of course, they want us to include an auto submit for this lab. So that's also very important. If you want to solve this lab, there's an options here which allows us to include an auto submit script. So if we regenerate now, we can see that we have a script for documents forms.submit. Now that's a bit deceptive because let's see real quick, is that in the assignment? No, it's not actually in the assignment, so you guys have to pay a bit of attention. But if you actually want to complete this lab, what you have to do is go to the exploit server, make sure that you have your auto submit script in here. That's very important. Then you have to store the exploit, view it, and you have solved your lab. So that's the first lab that I wanted to show you guys. There are no CSRF defenses in here at all, but there's also a lab called CSRF where token validation depends on the request method. And this is really cool. I wanted to show this to you guys as well. It's pretty similar to our previous labs, so we'll start up the lab again. We can do the same thing, except of course this time we have to make sure that we include our auto submit as well. If you can do that, that raises severity a little bit as well, of course, because your target no longer has to click any buttons. As soon as they open that URL that you sent them, it's going to apply that change in their email address. So again, here we have the same. Of course, I need to copy this URL into the right browser because I want my requests to be captured by Burp. So there we go. Now we can fill in the username again, Carlos, and we already saved it from our previous visit to the blog. We have pretty similar functionality. We're going to again try and change the email address to something similar. And when we do that, we should be able to see another post request in Burp to email/change email. That's exactly what's happening here. Except this time we do have a CSRF token in the request, so that's going to make a change. We're going to have to do some tests, and as bug bounty hunters, we have several options that we can perform. So we can, as we see our CSRF token here, we can try and change that token with a random value like 7 instead of 9. We can try sending that. We see that the server returns an invalid CSRF token, so that's okay. There's no vulnerability in this. What else can we do? We can try and replace the CSRF token by any value, like 123. Maybe this is an option. Maybe it only checks the CSRF token if it matches the expected structure. We can send this again. It doesn't register. We can try leaving it empty, so sending no CSRF token and sending an empty one. We can see that it says missing parameter in that case, so that's also not going to work. But there's another test that we can do, and it's called changing the method of the request. So as you can see now, it's a post request with post parameters. But you guys probably know about GET requests already. Now Burp has a really cool feature. If you have a request like this, you can simply right click it and click change the request method. As you see, all of my post parameters have been moved to my GET, and when I execute this request, it's going to go through. But when I remove the CSRF token now, it's also going to get through. So as you can see, this validation of the CSRF token depends on whether I send a GET or a post request. Now again, I want to, of course, I want to complete my labs. So if I want to submit an actual bug bounty POC, all I have to do is generate my POC in here. Then I'll have to paste that into my report. And that's pretty much where it stops for bug bounty hunters. Now to solve the labs, I want to include my auto submit script again. I want to regenerate this HTML code, copy it completely. You can also just press this button, by the way, copy HTML. Then I can go to my exploit server again, paste this in my body. I can store the exploit, and when I view it, I should have my lab completed. So there we go. That's how you solve those labs. They're not all that hard, and it should give you an idea of how to test for CSRF vulnerabilities in the wild while near bug bounty hunting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was amazing for me to make them, and it's amazing that you guys like these videos so much. If you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up, and I hope I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye, amazing hacker.